Question 1. Your company is going through an agile transformation. The agile PMO has decided to carry out research to deduce if your firm is well suited for agile. Which of the following resources would you use to do this? I'll give you some time to think about it. All right. So, my friends, the answer to this question has to do with Agile. So in addition to reading the risk section in your 6th edition, if you did, you should also read the Agile Practice Guide. So the correct answer to this is as follows. Because it says, your company is going through an agile transformation. The agile PMO has decided to carry out research to deduce if your firm is well suited for agile. The best answer to this can be found on page 126 of the Agile Practice Guide, and it has to do with this. This is a suitability assessment radar chart. If you haven't read page 126 in your Agile Practice Guide, I would advise you to do that. Okay, take a look at the suitability assessment radar chart. That's what the answer to this one is. All right, let's go to our next question. All right, next question, very quick. It's a true or false question. Kanban relies on a pull system for work to be done. True or false? 3, 2, 1. If you need more time, hit the pause button. The answer to this is true. Indeed, Kanban does rely on a pull system for work to be done. That is absolutely true. Take note of Kanban as well in your Agile Practice Guide. Let's go on to our next one. This reads, teams use stand-ups to micro-commit to each other, uncover problems, and ensure the work flows smoothly through the team. What is a question that you could ask at the daily scrum? If you need more time, hit the pause button. Three, 2, 1. Okay. Read it carefully. If you need more time, hit that pause button. The answer to this is C. What are my risks or problems? You can find this in the Agile Practice Guide on page 53. The answer is not D, because D says, what am I planning to complete before the next sprint? That's different from saying, what do you intend completing before the next meeting? B says next release, so it's obviously wrong too. What did I complete since the last release? A is wrong as well. Next question. Every user story must first be approved by the product owner before being added to the backlog. True or false? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. All right, 3, 2, and 1. This is false. User stories can be added to the backlog without the product owner being involved. The question is, will that story be approved to be done? But it can be added to the backlog by anyone at any time. So this is false. It does not have to be approved. Next question. Kanban works to reduce waste and defects by increasing WIP limits. True or false? For those of you who are just coming, we're having a risk management quiz. That's right, it's risk management. Has a little bit of an agile bend to it. So you must have studied both risk and some good Agile to be able to tackle the questions. All right. And if you have any questions that you would like me to answer for you, make sure you put them in the chat so that I can get to them for you. All right, let's round up. 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this one is false. Kanban works to reduce waste and defects by reducing WIP limits. We always talk about limiting our WIP. So it's all about limiting your WIP, your work in progress. Okay, let's go to our next one. You are PMO manager in your firm. You're working with one of your project managers on a process to ensure that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are proportionate to both risks and the importance of her project to the organization and other stakeholders. How can you best explain this? I'll give it a little bit of time for you to think about the answer. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Again, always hit that pause button. I will show you the answer in a few seconds. All right, so using the process of elimination, this is at the beginning of the project. This is not in the middle when you're implementing. You haven't started identifying risks yet. You are looking to see if your efforts are on par with the type of project. See? This is risk planning. Let's go to the PMBOK guide, page 401. It reads, plan risk management is a process of defining how to conduct risk management activities for a project. The key benefit of this process is that it ensures that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are proportionate to both risks and the importance of the project to the organization and other stakeholders. All right, let's go to another one. Real quick one here. T-shaped people supplement their expertise in one area with non-supporting but more developed skills in unassociated areas. True or false? All right. 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's go ahead and reveal the answer. The answer to this, my friends, is false. It should read associated areas. T-shaped skills are broad and deep. When we talk about the broad skills, we're talking about skills that can support people working with you. When we talk about the deep skills, those deep areas of specialisms might be peculiar to you, but others have those skills not in such depth, but to some degree. So the idea is to support each other. Right? So you should have read T-shaped people supplement the expertise in one or more areas with supporting, and could be not as developed skills, but they are supporting skills in associated areas. So there's a way that's worded in the Agile Practice Guide. Definitely check it out and understand the concept, because what good is it if my skills don't support yours? That's the idea of a cross-functional team and with generalizing specialists. Okay. All right, the next one. 3 categories of questions on an Agile radar chart as described by PMI are governance, revenues, and project. So again, it's taking you back to page 123, 456 in the Agile Practice Guide. Is this correct? True or false? What are the 3 questions, the 3 categories of questions? All right, 3, 2, and 1. So I expected you to be able to sniff out that governance and revenues were definitely not, right? But you have culture, project, and team. So this statement is false. All right, another question here. This is almost our final one. You work for a research company that has just gone through an Agile transformation. You're now working on a project with a high degree of change and a lot of uncertainty. What is the best way of managing the associated risks? I'll give you a few seconds to think about this one. All right, let's round this up. Thank you very much for your participation. So, you work for a research company that has just gone through an agile transformation. You are now working on this project with a high degree of change, a lot of uncertainty. What is the best way of managing the associated risks? So, taking a look at these, it says execute the work using an agile approach. It says use an iterative approach, use a purely predictive approach, and carry out the work using a plan-driven approach. Well, there's a trick here. If you look at the options, a couple of those options are the same. So using a purely predictive approach and a plan-driven approach, same thing. You gotta read between the lines. So right off the bat, that would have told me those two are likely wrong since they're the same thing. Predictive is plan-driven, plan-driven is predictive. People talk about traditional project management, all the same stuff. You might even hear people incorrectly call it waterfall. Waterfall is specific to software development. Just because you're doing a predictive project doesn't equate it to waterfall anyway, but that's a different day. Let's take a look at B. B says use an iterative approach to execute the work. So how do we know which one is which? It's hidden between the lines. If you have read pages 18 and 19 in the Agile Practice Guide, then this will make absolute sense to you. Because it says high degree of change. So with a high degree of change, you know that the two options are either iterative or agile, right? And then it says, and a lot of uncertainty. So a lot of uncertainty, high degree of change. What is the best way of managing a project with a lot of uncertainty? Right? Think about it. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of change. That definitely sounds like a recipe for agile, doesn't it? High degree of change, a lot of uncertainty. That would be your best bet. Take a look at page 14, page 18, page 19. All right. If you take a look at page 14, you're faced with a Stacy model. And in the Stacy model, we have projects with a high degree of predictability. And then we have projects with a high degree of uncertainty going towards the agile zone, right? In the Stacy model. If you haven't read the Stacy complexity model, also just called the Stacy model, Ralph Stacy, rest his soul, created this. Great mind. Very cool way of understanding when to be agile, when to be more in the simple zone. So if you take a look at page 14, you'll see the Stacy model, and then 18 and 19, take a look at the PMI table. I think it's 3-1. And also take a look at the continuum of life cycles. Take a look at that. And then it says, plan risk management is the process of defining how to conduct risk management activities, so on and so on. The bottom line is that a risk coping mechanism for dealing with uncertainty is actually doing things in increments, in iterations, being agile. All right, so the best option is A, agile. All right, that took a long time to explain. Let's go to our final question for today. Final question here, all the work necessary to achieve The product goal, including sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective, happen within sprints. Is that true or false? All right, this should be an easy one. 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this is true. The sprint is a container for all the other events. All right. I hope you enjoy those 10. I keep popping up with quizzes. I hope you're taking them. I hope you're closing the gaps. I hope it's all making sense. These are for you. So please take them and use them to assess your readiness for the exam. Okay. All the very best. Remember, right here in the live chat, I have a link to our hpmexam.com course. It is starting on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So please be aware, if you're finding the exam super difficult, you're finding it hard to progress, and you need help, you need to go on down to the website. It's www.hpmexam.com. You can sign up for our next immersion course. And the next immersion course is actually on Sunday. All right, so I'll show you that right now, right over here. Right over here. See if I can get that on the screen for you. All right, so that's it. hpmexam.com. Go on down there and sign up. Like I said, it's a 4-hour boot camp. We'll get you in ship shape for the test. There's a mock exam you take at the end. That's 180 questions. Make sure you hit that exam just like you would the real exam, and that will get you tuned up. Okay, I usually recommend getting the 90s on that mock exam and then take all the other mock exams. It will really give you a good run for your time. All right, hpmexam.com. All right, my friends, thank you for joining me. I wish you all the best, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hello, my friends. Your buddy Phil here, Project Management Trainer and Coach. Today, we're going to take a look at PMBOK Guide 7 questions. So today, we've got 7 questions on the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. And this is part 1. This is going to be a recurring series. So here is the very first question. Your PMO has asked you to work on a collection of strategic business activities aimed at building, sustaining, and/or advancing an organization. What does this best describe? Now, with these questions, you got to remember the purpose of these questions is to begin to immerse you gently into the world of the 7th edition, where some of the language is a little bit unknown. Some of this you may not have encountered before, and that's the purpose. It's to provoke you to open the book, take a look at it. If your exam is in 2022 especially, I would advise you to do that. All right, so let's take a look at the answers. Select an option. I'll be right back to share the answer. All right, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so what does this describe? The answer is pretty much verbatim from section 1.2 of the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. The answer to this one, none other than system for value delivery, also known as a value delivery system. Okay, here's your next question. Your project should provide value to the customer. Which of the following does not describe value? Choose the best answer. I'll give you a minute. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, if you need more time, hit the pause button. The answer to this question is B. The implied benefit of additional rework caused by choosing an easy solution. You see, it's counter. There are going to be some questions you see on the exam. You just have to use the process of elimination because the solution being proffered in the option, it doesn't make sense. So this is a little bit of technical debt mangled with implied benefit. This is really not value. Everything else is. A is value, the ability to use specific features or functions of a product. C is value, financial metrics such as the benefits less the cost of achieving those benefits, and the worth, importance, or usefulness of something. Those are all legitimate definitions of value. All right, for those of you just come in, we're taking a look at the 7th edition, and here's a little bit of trivia just to begin to immerse you into that world. You do remember, on the exam, the questions are more situational. This is all definitional type stuff, just to get you into the groove of the guide. Next question. You are working with a set of 17 individuals performing the scheduled scope of work of the project to achieve its objectives. What does this best describe? I'll give you a minute as usual. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Now, all of this stuff is available in the 7th edition, section 1.2, where it talks about all of those terms. You can find them in there. All right, now let's take a look at what this question says. 17 individuals cannot be a Scrum team. It shouldn't be an Agile team. Now, Scrum of Scrums, this is not Scrum, obviously, right? Because it says 17 individuals performing the scheduled scope of work. They're performing the scheduled scope of work. In a Scrum of Scrums, it's really a sync point, so this doesn't even make sense if we say Scrum of Scrums. And lastly, Flow Masters, no. These are bogus terms thrown in, or terms from the world of Kanban to distract you. We know that 17 individuals performing the scheduled scope of work is definitely more like traditional project management, right? So the answer to this, the best answer, is project team. All right, let's go to our next one. Next one here, an end result or consequence of a process or project that focuses on the benefits and value that the project was undertaken to deliver. As usual, I'll give you a minute. All right, 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this one, an end result or consequence. Think about that. That focuses on benefits and value. Those are all very positive words. The answer is not value, but outcome. So hold your horses. I know those who chose value think it's value. It's not value. Nope. Because it already says focuses on the benefits and value, right? It's not deliverable. Nope. And it's not product. So if you journey with me, we're going to go to 1.2 now. Let's go to 1.2 and I'll show you where exactly it is. Because I know the moment it popped up with that blue value, you thought that was the answer. No, that is not the answer. That is a false alarm. The false alarm. Okay, so here on page 4 of the 7th edition, it reads, outcome, an end result or consequence of a process or project. Outcomes can include outputs and artifacts, but have a broader intent by focusing on the benefits and value that the project was undertaken to deliver. So that should have been a giveaway because it already had the word value in it. All right, so the correct answer is outcome right there. All right, let's move on to our next one. Next question. An artifact that is produced is quantifiable and can be either an end item in itself or a component item. What does this best describe? What do you think it best describes? Is it outcome, program, service, product? What do you think? I'll give you a little bit close to a minute. Go for it. All right, time up. Again, if you take a look in 1.2, you'll observe that the answer is not A, and it's not B. We got to go there again to 1.2, page 4. I'm going to show it to you directly from the book. You look at the definition for product. It says an artifact that is produced is quantifiable and can be either an end item in itself or a component item. So the answer to that one, my friends, best answer to choose is product. Okay. Option D. All right, let's go to our next one. We got just 2 more. Which of the following is not part of a value delivery system? Choose the best option. Is it project? Is it program? Is it phase? Is it operation? What do you think? Give you a minute. Alrighty then. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the answer to this one, as you probably have guessed, is phase. And the reason is because project, program, operation, and portfolio, those are components in a value delivery system. So phases, that would be the best option. Could a phase be in a project? Yes. But remember, the best option, the one that is not that obvious, it is phase. It's like saying a task is part of a value delivery system. Of course, it's embedded in the project, but the big chunks, as we can see in the 7th edition, this is really sensitizing you to the concept of PMI's value delivery system. All right, I think we've got one left and we will be done and dusted. Here is the final question, my friends. All right, information flow in a value delivery system should be what? Directly from senior leadership to projects, directly from senior leadership to portfolios, directly from senior leadership to programs. None of the options. What do you think? It's a final one, finish big. Let's do it. All right. 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's take a look at the answer here, my friends. The answer that I was looking for is in chapter 2. I'll show you the page. This is on page 8. So we're going to read. There are various components such as portfolio, programs, projects, products, and operations that can be used individually and collectively to create value. Working together, these components comprise a system for delivering value that is aligned with the organization's strategy. Figure 2-1 shows an example of a system to deliver value. You go to figure 2-1, you can see portfolio, programs, projects, right, and so on. And then if you flip the page over to page 11, you now see the information flow in the value delivery system. And it shows you how the information flows directly from senior leadership to portfolios. That's strategy. And then from portfolios to programs and projects, desired outcomes, benefits, and value. And then directly from programs and projects to operations. Okay, and it says examples of information flow. See that? 2-3 shows a model of the flow of information where black arrows represent information from senior leadership to portfolios, portfolios to programs and projects, and then to operations. Senior leadership shares strategic information with portfolios. Portfolios share the desired outcomes, benefits, and value with programs and projects. Deliverables from the programs and projects are passed to operations. Quite an interesting narrative. This is one part of the 7th edition that I really think was a great addition. And when I say a really great addition, there are many things in the 7th edition that may end up confusing people who've read knowledge areas and process groups. But if there's something that's going to bring it home for people who are studying the broader concept of project management, I really believe the value delivery system is a great one. And the value delivery system, the way I teach it, just before I hop off here, I'll show you. The way I teach the value delivery system is to sensitize people to the concept of an aquarium, of all things, right? An aquarium. But I liken it to the concept of the aquarium, and the components in the aquarium, there are different components that help you remember this concept. So I'll show you a little bit of that before we hop off here tonight. All right. So here is my concept of the value delivery system in a different light. A little bit different from what you're used to seeing. Who would have thought about an aquarium to talk about project management, huh? Okay, so let's talk about the concept of the aquarium. Here we go. So it starts off like this. You've got the environment in which everything is happening in the organization, right? So you've got your projects, your programs, your portfolios. They're all happening in this system, this value delivery system. Ultimately, the system is made up of portfolios, as you can see over there. The portfolios are the big rocks, big chunks of things that are happening. Okay, those are your big chunks of work. You could call them boulders. And then we've got programs, which are smaller rocks. And then you've got projects, tiny little pebbles. You've got the operations. What is operations? It's the lifeblood of the firm. That's the water. You've got the outcomes. The outcomes, you see the plants beginning to sprout, and the benefits. The benefits, all the great views and nooks and crannies of the aquarium. I see those as being the benefits that the fish, the stakeholders, are going to get. And ultimately, they get a bunch of value. Now, talking about the flow of information, this is what I was talking about. You got strategy from senior leadership to portfolios. Portfolios pass on desired outcomes, benefits, and value to the programs and projects. You got programs and projects flowing deliverables over to the operations. Up there, you can see the operations are feeding back information for updates to programs and projects. Those are fed. And from there, you get performance information and progress sent to portfolios. And ultimately, portfolio performance information gets to senior leadership. And of course, don't forget operations, those outcomes, benefits, value, performance. And when you think about benefits and value and linking that to outcomes, usually it starts off with the most primitive of all levels in this narrative, which is a deliverable. A deliverable is a very primitive level of the narrative, because you could get a deliverable and you could maybe not get benefits, right? When you talk about value, what is value? It's the net quantifiable benefits that a user experiences from a product, service, or result. And some people have delivered products, have delivered deliverables, and there's no value, see? So when there's benefits, the net quantifiable benefits, that's value. When there's value, we're on the right track to get into the favorable outcome that we're looking for. So don't just think about the deliverable. If there's one thing you're going to learn from this narrative in chapter 2 of the 7th edition, just remember it's not about the deliverable, it's not about the product, service, or result. It's ultimately about the outcome that you're going to generate. And this whole narrative, it's very, very similar to what you hear us talking about in the world of Agile, right? If you've been around Agile long enough, you've heard us talking about this. Okay, so the image for the value delivery system, figure 2-1, I'd say take a look at it, know it, just not because it's going to come out on the exam, but really I think it helps explain what project management is about, the concept of value, the concept of portfolios, programs, projects, and operations working together. All right. I hope you found this to be useful. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you soon in yet another video. All the very best, and bye for now. All right, my friends, welcome. Let's get started with 25 easy questions that every PMP student can ace. These are pretty easy questions, okay? So we're going to get started right now. The very first question. If you need more time, hit the pause button, because what I'm going to do is whiz through the questions and the answers. So if you need more time, just go ahead and hit the pause button. Here's your first question. You have just been assigned as the project manager to an agile project. Which of the following will help you share the vision with your team? Very easy question. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am about to reveal the answer, so if you need more time, hit the pause button. The answer to this is not work performance reports. You don't have that yet. And it says you've just been assigned, right? The risk log, you don't have that yet. You've just been assigned as the project manager. And what this question is looking for is the sharing of the vision. It won't be the human resource plan. That will not help you share the vision. The best answer is the Agile Project Charter. See, told you it was easy. Easy stuff. Easy. You're going to come away realizing you know a lot. Let's go to our next one. True or false? There are 3 artifacts in Scrum. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question is true. There are 3 artifacts in Scrum: product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment. Let's go to our next question. The next question reads, Scrum is a heavyweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I told you this was an easy one. The answer to this is false. Scrum is not a heavyweight framework. It's a lightweight framework. Let's go to our next question. It's another true or false, and it says, in Scrum, a product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. Is that true or false? 3, 2, 1. That is a true statement. It is indeed correct to say a product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. Remember, the product owner is responsible and accountable when it comes to the backlog. Now, even though work could be delegated, the first person you think about as being accountable is the product owner. Next question. You have just been hired as a project management professional. You join a company where they are looking up to you for direction and guidance, being that you hold this great certification. What is the first thing you should do on an agile project? That one could be a little bit of a head scratcher, but you should pull through. I'll give you a little bit more time to think about the answer. time up on that one. What do you think the answer is? 3, 2, and 1. Well, on an agile project, the very first thing you should do is not to refine a backlog. You don't have a backlog, right? It's not sprint planning because you would need your backlog to do that. And it's not sprint review. That's when your customer checks the deliverable. So the answer in this case is backlog preparation. Take a look at pages 51, 52 forward in the Agile Practice Guide. Get to understand the practices in the world of Agile. I know some people will struggle with that, thinking it should be sprint planning. No, that would not be the first thing that would happen. You need your backlog. Without it, you can't do sprint planning. All right, let's go to our next one. This is a true or false question. An iteration must be 4 weeks or less. True or false? 3, 2, 1. Remember to hit the pause button if you need more time. The answer to that question is false. It does not have to be 4 weeks or less in other Agile frameworks, only in Scrum. So in the world of Scrum, we say 1 to 4 weeks. But in other frameworks, Kanban is flow-based. Your cadence doesn't have to be 4 weeks or less. It could be more than 4 weeks. All right, here's another question. True or false? In Agile project management, scope is flexible and cost and schedule are fixed. True or false? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer is true. In the world of Agile, the only thing that is flexible is scope. The other two components, they are fixed. Keep that in mind. Let's go to our next question. True or false? The Scrum Masters and product owners turn a selection of the work into an increment of value during the sprint. Is that true or false? 3, 2, 1. The answer to that question, that is false. It is not the product owner and Scrum Masters. It is actually the developers, the development team. Next question. You have just completed a sprint review. What is the next thing you should do on this Agile project? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. After the sprint review, the next ceremony is a sprint retrospective, and it's the final one in the world of Scrum. Next question. True or false? In Scrum, 2 or more product owners are advised where possible. Is that true or false? 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question is false. In Scrum, 1 product owner is advised. Next question. In Kanban, we strive to limit WIP. True or false? WIP stands for work in progress. The answer to this question is true. We limit our WIP in the world of Kanban. The key goal is really optimization, but we limit WIP. We have limits that we place when it comes to our work in progress, depending on the capacity of the team. Next question, true or false? In Scrum, the first event is the daily Scrum. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question, it is false. The first event, it should read, is the sprint itself. The first event is the sprint, because the sprint is a container for all the other events. Think about it like that, okay? The first event is the sprint itself, and then we do our sprint planning. Once the sprint, of course, has started, you do the sprint planning. All right, a little bit of trickery in that one, but nonetheless, you should be in very good shape to get at least an 80% in this thing. Next question. You have just been hired as a project management professional. You join a company where they're looking up to you for direction and guidance, being that you hold this great certification. The project deliverables have been accepted and signed off on. What should you do next? Please hit the pause button if you need more time because I will show the answer pretty quick. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question is not learn about what needs to be done next. You've only got sign off. There are other things you need to do, right? Eventually, you should get to the point where you close the phase, release all the resources. But the most sensible thing to do at this point is to go into administrative closure. Don't release the resources yet because they could very well help you in the administrative closure. And when we say all resources, we're talking about human, equipment, material, supplies, and so on. All right, let's go to our next one. Scrum employs an incremental predictive approach to minimize predictability and to control risk. 3, 2, 1. This is false. Better said, Scrum employs an iterative incremental approach to optimize predictability, not to minimize predictability. You catch that little play on words there? Every word counts on your exam, my friends. Next question. Commitment, openness, and courage. These are known as the 3 pillars of Scrum and the Scrum principles. True or false? Hit the pause button if you need to think about it. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question, my friends, is false. The 3 pillars of Scrum are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. For those of you just come in, it's another one of those pub quizzes, your buddy Phil, just trying to test and see, make sure you know all of these very basic things. I'm going to put a little chat here. If you have any questions about the exam, please go ahead and ask. The whole idea is to check up on you, make sure you're doing well, make sure that your questions are answered if there are any. If you are taking the CAPM exam, this isn't for you. There's too much agile in this question set. All right, so if you have questions, please ask them, put them in the chat box, okay? Thank you very much for joining. It's a timestamp. It's 10:01 on the East Coast. So feel free to put your questions in if our times do align, all right? 10:01 on the East Coast, 10:01 p.m. on the 14th of April. My goodness, where's April going? It's going crazy, crazy quick. All right, let's go to our next question. Next question here, true or false? Burn charts are an essential artifact and mandatory in Scrum. True or false? 3, 2, 1. This is false. Burn charts are not an essential artifact in Scrum. It's nice to tailor up when you're using Agile. Though helpful, burn charts are not essential in Scrum. It might surprise you because we talk about them all the time, right? Bear in mind, user stories as well are not mandatory in Scrum. It's not referred to in the Scrum guide that user stories are essential or burn charts. All right, let's go to our next question. You've just been hired as a project management professional. You join a company where they are looking up to you for direction and guidance, meaning that you hold this great certification. The project deliverables have been accepted and signed off by the customer. What should you do next? What should you do next? What do you think? I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about this one. Few more seconds. right. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at the answer for this one. 3, 2, and 1. So what you do next? If the deliverables have been accepted and signed off by the customer, that validates scope. You still need to think about other things on the project. So learning about the next project to be done, that's all well and good, but that's not what you're going to do next. So it's not that. Releasing all the resources is not what you want to do immediately because you have to do some closeout stuff that they could help you with. And it won't be to close out the phase because you would need to release the resources, of course. So the best answer is compile all the lessons learned. You would need to do that. That would be the best choice. All right, so the answer to that is compile all the lessons learned. Let's go to our next question. Lean thinking increases production and waste while it focuses on the essentials. True or false? 3, 2, and 1. All right, the answer to this question is false. It is false because it talks about increasing waste. You are minimizing waste in the world of lean. Lean thinking does not increase waste. All right, here's another question. True or false? SPI equals EV divided by AC. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer, my friends, is false. The correct formula is earned value divided by planned value. Okay. EV divided by AC is a different formula for CPI. So that is false. Okay, next question. On a Scrum team, work must be released every sprint. True or false? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer to that question, my friends, is false. You do not have to release every sprint in the world of Scrum. In the world of Scrum, we get an increment. We could refer to it as a potentially shippable increment, but it doesn't mean that you need to ship because you may not have enough features in the product to release it. So there's a difference between a sprint and a release. Many sprints could be in a release. Many PSIs, if you will, potentially shippable increments, could make up a release. So you don't have to release every sprint. Next question. In Scrum, there must be backlog refinement every sprint. True or false? All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, my friends. Before I reveal the next answer, I would ask you for a favor. If you're watching, you're finding value from these questions, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so that you can get notified whenever I come online with some of these pub quizzes. We had one yesterday, and we always have them every now and again. The answer to this question, my friends, is false. You do not have to put backlog refinement in as a ceremony or event every sprint. In fact, the co-creators of Scrum, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland, don't put this in the Scrum guide. And the reason is the product owner could choose to do this as he or she sees fit, depending on a lot of factors. So it's not mandatory. A lot of people do backlog refinement, and that's good, but it's not mandatory. The word must gives it away. Next question. You have just completed your project management plan. What should you do next? This should be a rather easy one. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this is direct the project work. Well, first of all, you wouldn't create a business. You're already in a business, hopefully. You wouldn't create a business case. right? Because it says you just completed the project management plan. All of that stuff should have been done before. You wouldn't authorize the project because it was already authorized in the charter. So the best option is direct the project work. Very simple, right? Simple logic. All right, here's another one. True or false? There are 5 process groups in project management. 3, 2, 1. That is easy peasy. It is true. There are 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. Let's take a look at this one. The Scrum team consists of stakeholders, 1 Scrum Master, 1 product owner, 1 architect, and developers. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this question is false. The Scrum team consists of 1 Scrum Master, 1 product owner, and developers. Stakeholders, architect, those are all made up. So that is false. Okay, let's move on to our next question. The project team's velocity is fluctuating and is much higher than normal. What is the most likely purpose? I will give you a few more seconds than normal to answer this one. And if you have any questions about the PMP exam or anything else you want me to address in project management, feel free to chat in the chat box. You'll see the live chat, put it in there, and I will answer as soon as I can. Again, timestamp, it's 10 minutes past 10 on the East Coast. It's the 14th of April, and we will be ending this in the next 3 or 4 minutes. So put any questions in there, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. For now, let's play a little bit of music while you answer this question. This question. So what do you think? What is a likely purpose? Okay, so in this case, it's not a bad thing for your velocity to be much higher than normal. It's something that you want to know why, though, right? Why is this happening? So if your velocity is high, it means that you're getting more work done. You're getting story points that you typically wouldn't get done. You're getting more story points done, right? So it can't be because your capacity is low. It could be because your capacity is higher in a particular time period. Maybe people are not on holidays like they have been. More people are available. People have more time, So it's not one. Let's take a look at number 4, many user and system requirements. No, that would be the opposite. If you had all of these things to do, right, it's possible that those could suck you down. But having a lot of requirements or having a lot of stories is not a contributor to your velocity being higher. Velocity is how many story points you're getting done in a sprint. So it wouldn't be number 4. The stories are too tough. Again, it's already baked into the estimate. So whether the stories are tough or whether the stories are easy, the story points are story points. If anything, if the stories are tougher than you estimated, your velocity would be low. So this does not explain why your velocity is higher. So the best answer is the most ambiguous one. It's hard to tell. On your PMP exam, you will come across questions where the answer is just in the middle of the road. It looks rather bland, but that's the best answer, my friends. All right, let's move on to our next one. This is About Scrum again, the ideal size of a Scrum team is 3 to 15 members. True or false? What do you think? 3, 2, 1. All right. The answer to this is false. It is not between 3 to 15 members. 15 would be too big of a number. Okay. So if you go into the Scrum Guide, go to scrumguides.org. And if you haven't already done that, I would like to recommend that you do that. It's not a bad thing to do, to read the Scrum Guide. Yes, it's a PMI exam, but do you know that Scrum is used so widely across the world? Go down to that link and read the Scrum Guide and understand a little bit more about Scrum beyond what is in the Agile Practice Guide. I think it will really help you. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at our final answer. Final answer. Okay. Again, you got to choose the best option. The ideal size of a Scrum team is 3 to 9 members. True? False? What do you think? All right, 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to leave this question as a cliffhanger. The reason is, in the Agile Practice Guide, you have Agile teams being defined as 3 to 9 members. But in the Scrum Guide in particular, it reads, the Scrum team is small enough to remain nimble and large enough to complete significant work within a sprint. Typically 10 or fewer people. So 10 or fewer. See that? And that's why it's a cliffhanger. If I had said, according to the Scrum Guide, the ideal Scrum team is ... 10 or less, then that would have been more of a fair question. So I want you to be aware, though, that in the world of the Agile Practice Guide, it talks about between 3 to 9 for an Agile team, but you do know that Scrum is just one of the Agile frameworks. Just one. You got many others. All right. So, my friends, we have come to the end of our pop quiz for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so when your buddy Phil comes on, you'll be notified. All right. Any questions before we round up? Let's take a look. I do not see any questions. Seems like everyone is still answering the questions, and you did hit the pause button just like I advised you to. Well done. I wish you all the very best in your prep. Talk to you very soon. Bye for now. Hello, my friends. How you doing? It's your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. Today, we're going to take a look at some hybrid questions from the world of the PMP exam. You might have heard me talking about what to stay clear of. Well, today we're actually going to focus on what you could expect on the exam. You see, the language on the exam is very strange from what I gather. The language is neither overtly predictive in most instances, and neither is it overtly agile. So you're somewhere in the middle of the road where the questions could be posed from a hybrid perspective, which means you really need to have your wits about you. So the purpose of today, we're going to go through over the next 10 minutes, very, very quick, 10 questions that exemplify the feel I would expect to find on the exam. I would advise you to get the biggest payoff from this by actually hitting the pause button, thinking about the questions, and then choosing an answer and seeing if yours matches up with the correct answer. All right, are you ready? Let's begin. Here's the first question. You are a project manager on a hybrid project using an agile approach and in the process of costing work to be done. How would you likely proceed? All right. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 3, 2, and 1. All right. Let's end the poll and let's take a look at what you have selected. Because you are in an agile project, the most sensible thing to do is to work in accordance with the triple constraint that is flipped on its head, where scope is flexible, where schedule and cost are fixed. So, do you see fixed schedule? No. Do you see fixed cost? Yes. So the answer is D. Okay? The answer is D because schedule and cost are fixed in the world of Agile, and that's what you want to choose. Let's go to the next one. You are a project manager on an Agile project involved in creating a new software application. A product owner delivers a report that the refactoring process being used by the team is inadequate. What should the project manager do upon receiving this complaint? All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, so if you go through the options, some of the options sound a little bit spurious. Make the changes and follow the recommended change control procedures. That word change control obviously sounds predictive, doesn't it? And it's telling you you're in an agile project. B, meet one-on-one with the product owner to keep the matter secret from the team. That goes against transparency, so that wouldn't be a good option. C, a strange sounding one, conduct a retrospective. What is a conduct a retrospective? Well, it sounds spurious. It says in the absence of the product owner. So even if you take it at face value, conduct a retrospective in the absence of the product owner so you can discuss freely, no, that's against the spirit of Agile. The product owner is meant to be in the retrospective. So we are going to cancel this one as well. And we're going to take a look at option D, meet with the product owner and the team to better understand the problem. Simple. A lot of times on the exam, you come across very simple answers, but those are the right answers. All right, let's go to our next one. A project manager working on a flow-based agile project receives a request from management to scale up and to add 4 team members on after training. There are currently 4 team members. What should the project manager do next? What do you think? All right, 3, 2, 1. Remember to hit the pause button if you need more time. You see the question keeps mentioning project manager, even though it's talking about agile, but you still see project manager, which is kind of counter. You can kind of tell it's more like an agile-ish, hybrid-ish mix. But anyway, let's take a look at the options. Scrum of scrums. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's count. Add 4 team members. You currently have 4 team members. And let's assume we throw in the project manager as well. In the world of Agile, should be included as a servant leader. So we have 9. So we have 9 in total if we were going to add these 4. You wouldn't need a Scrum of Scrums for that. A Scrum of Scrums is used to scale up larger numbers than 9. Kanban, we're not looking to scale, to be honest, because we just have 9. So even though the project manager has been asked to scale up, there's really no need to scale up. So Kanban, we're not going to throw that out. Let's take a look at Scrum. Scrum, well, it says a flow-based agile project. So it cannot be Scrum. Scrum is iteration-based. And D, discipline agile, we don't need this for just 9 individuals. So the best answer is B. In the spirit of agile, you want to go ahead and choose Kanban. That's the flow-based approach at the team level, and that will suffice. Let's take a look at the next one. You're a project manager in a hybrid project using a predominantly agile approach and in the process of decomposing work to be done. What should you do first? All right, if you need more time, hit that pause button. Spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. All right, so I have a mnemonic. It goes like this. Phil eats fries seldomly on Tuesdays. And that just means product, epic, feature, story, and task. So at the topmost level, you have the product, then the epic, then the feature, then the story, then the task. So you begin from the topmost levels working down. So it wouldn't be any of the lower levels, definitely not the feature. When you have the epic, definitely not the task level. You wouldn't decompose any further than that. And work package level, that's trying to throw you off. That's from the world of WBS, which is in predictive. So the answer to this is epic. In an agile world, that would be the highest level. That's where you would begin decomposing from. All right, let's move to our next one. You are planning how and when to deliver a product on an agile project. Which of the following approaches would you use, should be the word. So you think about it for a moment. Gonna do a little tweak here on the fly and go ahead and choose whatever you think. Which of the following approaches would you use? Alrighty then, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so think about it. Long cycles to undertake work is the first one. Remember, you're in the world of agile. We don't use long cycles, right? You're planning how and when to deliver a project. You wouldn't use long cycles. So anything that says long cycles is automatically wrong, regardless what follows. This is a method you should use on your exam, the process of elimination. Just cancel whatever, use long cycles to undertake work, review plans, and stick to the plan. That's definitely not agile. Use long cycles to monitor work, review the results, definitely not long cycles. And you wouldn't be able to adapt sensibly if it was long cycles. Now it boils down to the last two. Let's take a look at C. Use short cycles to undertake work, review the results, and adapt as necessary. Sounds plausible. Let's take a look at D, see if it's better. Use short cycles to plan work. Ignore the results. Oh, that's definitely a red flag. So, ignore, no. In order to embody what Agile is all about and empiricism, you should not be ignoring the results. You should be incorporating the results. So the answer to this, my friends, is C. Use short cycles to undertake work, review the results, and adapt as necessary. All right, let's go to our next one. You are in the process of establishing how to build a schedule, the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, developing, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. Which result do you expect to receive from this process? If you need a pause button, hit it. 3, 2, 1. All right, my friends. The answer to this question can be decoded by knowing what exactly you are. It says establishing how. See that? To build a schedule. This is one of the things that happens in any predictive project. We ask the question, how are we going to develop the schedule? So this is really as you're planning how to build a schedule, right? And it says, what do you expect to receive from planning how to develop the schedule? The process of elimination is definitely not the project schedule we get because we're planning how to build it. We couldn't have just gotten it like that. B is the schedule baseline, which is the originally approved schedule. So we wouldn't receive that from planning how to build a schedule. That's premature. Let's take a look at the last two. C is schedule development approach, and D is the product roadmap and sprint goal. No, that would be, first of all, too early, and secondly, of course. Okay, so that will not come at this point. You'll be thinking more about this as you develop the schedule, but not as you're planning how. You see, in this part of the project, you probably would ask, how are we going to build a roadmap? You wouldn't build the roadmap. So the best answer seems to be C, schedule development approach. That's what you're going to get out of the process. All right, let's move on to our next one. And then take a look at page 180, and you'll be able to see that in more detail. Let's go to our next one. You have been hired to lead an Agile project that has high visibility. Some very important information needs to be sent out to stakeholders, but you need to decide on the type and format of information needed with an analysis of the value of that information. Which of the following communications would you choose? Give it a minute. If you need a pause button, please hit it. Think about this. 3, 2, and 1. All right, my friends. So let's use process of elimination again. So you got to read the cues. Some cues have been given. And like I said, the exam juggles between the Agile realm and the predictive realm. Okay, so here we can use the process of elimination to cancel anything that is un-Agile. So taking a look right down A, B, and C, I see infrequent, centralized. Those are bad words for Agile. Infrequent is bad. Centralized is bad. And that cancels everything else. So whether you're using burn down charts, demos, reviews, that is inconsequential. That is a very poor option for you. So let's cancel that. All right, so let's take a look at what we have left and look down. I see the word centralized again. This is anti-Agile, right? We don't use centralized communication. Definitely not around your schedule, so we cancel that, okay? And then taking a look at the last two. Let's read. Frequent transparent communication using an information radiator. Doesn't sound bad. Let's take a look at the next one. Frequent communication using a communication management plan and status reports. Okay, so you do know these are not as agile as you can be with a communication management plan. You know, we use team charters and we use osmotic communication and fishbowl window concept and things like that. But what it's talking about here is definitely more on the agile side. So unfortunately, we have to get rid of C and the option, the best option, because it's agile. You want to use frequent, transparent communication using an information radiator. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I hope you're enjoying these questions. If you are, don't forget to hit like, hit that smash that like button, and then don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon, because it helps the algorithm so that our friends can find these videos. I hear a lot of people after the fact, they say, Phil, we didn't know that you were out there on YouTube. Well, it's because people are not able to find the videos. So if you hit like, it'll help your friends and other people trying to get certified to find these videos. All right, let's take a look at the next one. The next question is, your firm is going through an agile transformation. You're now in the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communications on your new agile project. The company culture is opposed to large amounts of communication. What should you do to effectively manage communications with this globally dispersed team? So the question, my friends, again, I'm not trying to tell you the answer, but look for those clues. There's certain clues. If you miss those clues, the whole question will be totally wrong. Okay? All right, if you need to hit the pause button, go ahead and do that. 3, 2, 1. All right, spoiler alert, I am going to show you the answer, but it seems like I'm too late. You must have been laughing all the way because I was showing you the answer right from the beginning. So this one's yours for free. This is a free question. You got me on this one. All right, so again, you want to take a look at the options. Let's assume you weren't able to see the option that I'm showing you, right? The answer I'm showing you. Because this is agile, all of these other things that are not to be used with a globally dispersed team wouldn't work. You get what I'm saying? So avoid frequent messaging would be wrong in the spirit of agile, so you would cancel that. Discuss policies with functional heads. That there's absolutely no reason for you to do that. That would be wrong. And then we have A and B. So email, phone call, weekly. That should have immediately thrown you off. That's much too long for an agile project. On an agile project, you know the drill. It's a daily thing, the daily stand-ups, a daily scrum. And that's why the answer that we have chosen for this is A. Instant messaging, video conferencing, team boards, stuff like that. All right, good. So the answer would have been A, but you got me on that one. That one's yours for free, except I can reverse engineer it. I'll see. All right, here we go. Here's your second to the last question. All right, you're working on an agile project and unfortunately, you're unable to use webcams. The team is 100% virtual. When conducting meetings with remote participants, where there is a loss of facial and body language cues, which of the following would you recommend? All right, hit the pause button if you need more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, my friends, here we go. Again, the language tends more towards an agile project. So even if you went on an agile project, this should be pretty common sense for you. It's asking, how do you keep people engaged when you don't have webcams? So is it allowing one person to speak for the entire duration? No. That actually will catalyze people falling off the map and doing other things instead of being engaged. So it's not A. B, consider round-robin check-ins to ensure participation and check consensus for decisions. It doesn't sound bad. C, use firm, fixed, and rigid communication, oh, that's definitely not agile. To avoid disorder, so you wouldn't do that. And the last one, this should not be a problem if email is the sole communications medium. No, we don't want to do that. So the answer to this, my friends, is B. Okay, you can find this on page 122 of the Agile Practice Guide. This is verbatim. It says, when conducting meetings with remote participants where there is a loss of facial and body language cues, consider round-robin check-ins to ensure participation and check consensus for decisions. So what you've seen from most of these questions, they're not insurmountable, they're not too difficult. However, you do need to read and you really need to focus and concentrate to apply the thinking of, am I in Agile? Am I in Scrum in particular? Am I in Kanban in particular? Am I in predictive? And then choose the answer accordingly. Let's take a look at another one. Okay. You are the project manager in a large size organization. Management has decided to allow you implement the ideas you have requested. The PMO has authorized you to set up a number of agile teams. What should you do next? I'll let you think about it for a little bit. This will be our final one for today. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's take a look at the question. So, my advice for questions like this would be to use the process of elimination. The process of elimination, when you don't know the question, like straight, head-on, pinpoint, precise, my advice to you is to use the process of elimination. Now, some folks encounter questions on the exam and get dispirited. Don't. Just remember, process of elimination is always a good option to use. Okay, so which of these can you immediately disqualify? Let's do that. Set up teams of 12. You do know that the number of teams that we often talk about in the world of Agile is less than that number. So this is not ideal. It says, with a tightly governed structure, that makes matters worse. This will enable you to try out several pilots. No, that's bad stuff. So get rid of that. Let's take a look at the next one. Set up teams of 20 to 30. You do know they must be having a laugh at this point. Definitely not. We don't set up teams with 20 and 30 for large size client projects. No, no, no. That's predictive world. No. Okay. Next one. Set up teams of 7 plus or minus 2 with a decentralized structure. This will allow the team to better practice agile concepts. So I'm sure you get the idea of what is going on here. The idea is to see if you know what would work best when building an agile team, what size. So C doesn't sound bad. However, let's take a look at D. Set up teams of 9 or minus 3. 9 plus or minus 3. Well, that will take us again into the world of 12, which is a no-go area based on what we know in the Agile Practice Guide, right? So that wouldn't be the right thing to do either. Set up teams of 9 plus or minus 3. Enable, oh, there's the bad word of decision-making structure again. So you know that is not what you want to do. That is not what you should do. So again, we can cancel option D. And then we're left with C. There you go. We're left with C. And the answer to this final question, my friends, is C, for obvious reasons. Okay? Whenever you get questions that tell you in an agile situation, you need to be thinking agile. All right? No more than 9 team members, 12 would be too large, and a centralized structure is not desired. Okay? Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions whatsoever, or you are looking to work on your exam prep, you know what to do. Just look below. You'll find all the information you need and the website. Okay, thank you very much. I wish you all the very best. Remember to think hybrid. The more balanced you are with hybrid and predictive, the better it's going to be. You'll be able to navigate more freely. Okay, it's not about agile alone. I actually got a student last week that said agile might have been like 4% if you're going to say purely agile. I was a little bit astonished because for the longest time I'd heard that agile was big, but in 2022 seems like the tide is changing quite drastically. A lot of students are saying it's more hybrid than anything else. It's all mixed up. And if you don't know how to make the road clear by moving agile to one side and predictive to the other and seeing clearly, oh, this is all mixed, it's hybrid, you might find it hard. You know, some questions are purely predictive, yes. Some questions are purely agile, yes. But a lot of the questions are hybrid. That's what I've heard. Before I go, let me also remind you to read the Agile Practice Guide, and also don't forget to read the PMP exam content outline. That will help you greatly. All right, you take care and all the very best. Bye for now. So today we're going to take a look at questions from the business domain. We took a look at questions previously from the other two. Here's the final one. It's a scaled down version, if you will, of what you could find on the exam in terms of number. So as usual, we'll take a look at the first question. I'll give you about a minute to answer. If you need more time, hit the pause button, make sure you get an answer, and then find out what the real answer is and close gaps in your knowledge. You are developing a new agile mindset for your consulting team. Which of the following best espouses an agile mindset? Is it formalizing an entire contracting relationship in a single document, reward and recognition for outstanding team members, a shared risk-reward relationship where all sides win? Consultant bears all the risk so that your procurement team wins. What do you think? I'll give you a minute. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the option of most relevance to Agile is. We'll start from the bottom up. D, consultant bears all the risk so that your procurement team wins. That sounds lopsided and a bit selfish. Just wanting your team, your procurement team to win, put all the risk on the consultant. That is not an agile mindset. We should be thinking about collaboration over contract negotiation. C, a shared risk-reward relationship where all sides win. Well, what could go wrong if every side wins? Let's hold on to that thought. B, reward and recognition for, note the word, outstanding team members. In the world of Agile, we do not segregate outstanding team members from what may be otherwise not outstanding. We take a look at team output. as opposed to taking a look at individual output. So B, reward and recognition for outstanding team members. While it sounds good, this is not in the spirit of Agile. The spirit of Agile rewards the team, not individuals. So the world of traditional and the world of Agile, they work very differently. A, formalizing an entire contracting relationship in a single document. The size of the document is not important. It's what is in the document that would make it agile or not. So there's not enough in this for us to go with A. And that leaves you with C, a shared risk-reward relationship where all sides win. So taking a look at this could apply to a team, it could apply to a consultant, anything. Questions such as this that seem to combine ideas from different aspects of the business can be expected. You're not always going to get a question where all the options are something that pertains to a team. You could get some options that are consultant related, some that are team related, but the bottom line is which of these espouses an agile mindset. Okay, so answer to that, A. All right, let's move on to our next question. When addressing an individual challenge area or implementing a new hybrid or agile approach, a common practice is to treat the change process as an agile project with its own backlog of changes that could be introduced and prioritized by the team. Which of the following is consistent with Agile manifesto principles and Scrum practices? I'm going to give you a minute and 12 seconds. This one is a bit of a long one. A little bit more time left. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so when addressing an individual challenge area or implementing a new hybrid or agile approach, a common practice is to treat the change process as an agile project with its own backlog of changes that could be introduced and prioritized by the team. Which of the following is consistent with Agile manifesto principles and Scrum practices? Again, let's start from the bottom. At project end, when the product goal is reached, review external business environment. So watch this. At project end, review external business environment for impacts on the project scope and make adjustments for the program. What good is that when the program or the project is already done, when the product goal is reached? You should actually do this before the goal is reached. So we're going to cancel D because it doesn't make sense. C, work with stakeholders to reduce scope creep and, watch this, limit options for scope changes or backlog changes. That is not in the spirit of Agile. It then says the less change there is, the faster the product will be completed. So not in the spirit of Agile. In the world of Agile, we embrace and welcome change. The only thing we do not do is within the sprint, encourage copious tons of change. We don't do that. Once our sprint is locked in the world of Scrum, we keep it as pure as possible. So that is a different kind of question, but it still comes into play. You need to have a keen eye for detail. When it talks about scope creep, limiting options for scope backlog changes, we see things differently in this world. While we don't want people to say they want a Tesla when they ask for a Harley in the first place, we at the same time do not limit options for backlog changes in general. That is the whole idea behind Agile. Change needs to happen, change the backlog. All right. So when we say backlog, we mean product backlog, not the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog, we do not want to change as much as we can. The product backlog, people can update that. The question is, will it be done? And that's the product owner's call. Let's go to B. Assess and prioritize the impact on the product backlog based on external environment changes. Engage all relevant stakeholders in technical decisions. That doesn't sound bad. Let's take a look at A. Focus on the immediate environment. Only each sprint. Okay. Focus on the immediate environment only each sprint and not on the external business environment, and exclude the product owner from technical decisions. Well, of course, that will be a recipe for failure. The product owner does need to be in those discussions, and you do not relegate your discoveries and your focus on just the immediate environment. You got to take a look at the big picture, business environment. So this is really based on the PMP exam content outline, all right? Most sensible option is B. Assess and prioritize the impact on the product backlog based on external environment changes. Engage all relevant stakeholders in technical decisions. Okay. That's that. Let's go to our next one. You're working with a business unit to complete a benefits management plan. Which of the following would you expect to be done as part of the responsibilities of the benefits owner? Select all that apply. I'll let you read it. All right, if you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, and 1. So go into option D, using the process of elimination. It reads, appraise stakeholders of value gain progress. Remember, it says select all that apply. So we're going to put a tick. That applies. Appraise stakeholders of value gain progress. How do we know this? Well, a lot of this stuff is in the PMBOK guide in section 1262, page 33. But in addition to that, the PMP exam content outline contains these specific tasks. Let's take a look at C. Verify a measurement system is in place to track schedule progress. This is talking about schedule. We know that the benefits owner's job is not to put a measurement system in place for schedule. That sounds more like what the PM would do. So we are not going to choose that. Let's go to B. Document agreement on ownership for ongoing benefit realization. In other words, who's going to own it? That's definitely something we do there. And lastly, it says, investigate that benefits identified. It's one of the main things the benefit owner does. So the answer is A, B, and D. And you do recall on your exam, you very well could get one of those, select all that applies, right? They could very well ask you to choose more than one. So you get ready for questions like that. All right, let's move on to our next one. As a project manager, you're expected to confirm project compliance requirements, for example, security, health and safety, regulatory compliance, and classify compliance categories while determining potential threats to compliance. Which of the following risk identification models exist to help you achieve this? Go ahead. All right, 3, 2, and 1. So which of the following risk identification models exists to help you achieve this? In other words, which of these is a real model? Well, you've got 4 lines and you've got an answer buried. For this one, we're going to start off with A. We're going to use the process of elimination to cancel anything that is bogus, doesn't exist. So A, VUCA, Ester, and Teacup. So if you take a look, like I said, on page 416 of the PMBOK guide, you can see that VUCA does exist. It's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Ester does not exist. Teacup does exist. Teacup stands for technical, environmental, commercial, operational, and political. The second one, MOLA, does not exist. PESTLE does exist. PESTLE is political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So based on that, we know Ester doesn't exist, MOLA doesn't exist, MOTA doesn't exist. PESTLE and Teacup do, and so does VUCA. And that leaves us with option D. So you're going to know which models are real and which ones are fake, just in case you get questions on any of that. Let's take a look at the next one. The product owner and the team discussed the user stories planned for a particular project. The team pointed out that none of the stories had acceptance criteria defined, and that these were needed to define the acceptance tests for each story and deliverable. However, they could not agree on when exactly these needed to be identified or defined, rather. Ideally, when should the acceptance tests be defined? I'll give you a minute. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let's start from the top and we'll go down. So it reads, they could not agree on exactly when these needed to be defined. Ideally, when should the acceptance test be defined? So you got to remember, when you're taking a look at user stories, the front of the card, it's typically the story, the role, goal, benefit. You got to remember to flip it over, right? Because when you flip the card over at the back, that's where you typically would put the acceptance criteria, doing things with physical note cards and so on, like the good old days. So A says before release planning during visioning. That is way early. You don't even have stories then, most of the time. So let's get rid of that. Or you might have an epic or two, but definitely not the whole laundry list of stories, right? So very unlikely you'd be looking for criteria at this point. Now, if it is the multiple events that happen, because release plan is not just a one-time thing, if it so happens that it's in the future, it's still not the best place to do that. But this says before release planning. If you think about the very first round of release planning, you wouldn't be doing that in there. So that's not ideal. B, during the iteration, at any time before development is complete. So think about it, assembling acceptance criteria in the middle of the sprint while development is going on before it's complete. No, that is not correct. Not B. Let's take a look at C. During the review or retrospective with customer input. No, the customer is not there in a review meeting for the purpose of defining criteria. It would not happen in a demo, that's for sure. Could you get news stories in a demo? You could, but as far as the acceptance criteria, the acceptance tests, that would have to be done outside of the review. The best answer is D. It's in refinement before development. And when you know the 353 and you know what happens in each event, it makes sense as to why you would do this in backlog refinement, right? So it's in refinement before development. And that is the overarching best answer. And that, my friends, concludes our review of people, process, and business. Today, we took a look at business. This is how we think. In the project management masterclass, it's all getting you ready for the PMP exam. So going down to projectmanagementmasterclass.com, take a look. Very well could be the course that helps you get this down pat. Thank you. You take care. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe, share with your friends. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this very quick tutorial about the Stacy complexity model. Now, I heard that in the study group, you kind of had questions about it. Well, why don't we take a look at this? Because it's exactly the same concept as page 14 in the Agile Practice Guide. So if you take a look at the screen here, we have to the left, close to agreement. That's on the y-axis. Close to agreement, far from agreement at the top. We're talking more about the requirements on the y-axis. So let's draw that here so that you know which axes I'm referring to. This is the y-axis, right? This represents requirements. It could also represent a number of other things. So in PMI's Agile Practice Guide, they have requirements on certainty, they call it, but they have on the x-axis technical degree of uncertainty. That way. So whether you're talking about close to agreement about requirements or close to certainty on requirements, or close to certainty on technical, right? Or far from certainty on technical, the concept is the same. This is always saying two parameters, technicality and requirements. So the more certain you are about the requirements, the more predictive you should be. I mean, why wouldn't you be? Why would you use something else when you know pretty much all the requirements? So you're going to be here in this zone of simple if you're working on close to agreement and close to certainty. You get it? Close to agreement in the requirements, close to certainty regarding the technicality. Get it? Makes sense? Good. So what we're saying is that in this zone, the projects you're working are going to be more predictive in this zone down here. These are going to be your predictive type projects. And it's as simple as that. That's all that's trying to say. It's just trying to say that if you're working on stuff that is close to certainty, close to agreement, you're going to be predictive. Think about that for a second. All right, so now you understand that. Let's take a look at what happens if you begin to move into further from agreement and further from certainty. Let's take a look at that and think about it for a second. As you begin to move in that direction, further away from certainty, you are going to be moving into the middle of the chart over here. And this means your project is more complex. See? So what does it say in the Agile Practice Guide? It says, those simple projects, linear approaches work well for predictive, but as you're moving away, adaptive approaches work well in that complex or complicated region. And that is where you need to be thinking about some morphing of the worlds. No one is saying use entirely agile or entirely hybrid. No, 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 no. That's not what we're saying. All we're saying is that the likelihood is you need to think hybrid. You see, there's no hard and fast rule. It must be hybrid. It must be agile. It must be predictive. No one's saying that. So you got to assess it for yourself. But from what I'm seeing, the more you're moving towards the middle, you are likely to be better off using a hybrid model, right? Perhaps you find out you need to use more agile than predictive. See, so as you're going into this orange zone here, you're beginning to think about agile concepts, either morphing to some degree with predictive, or maybe going all the way to the end, the right side of the image, which is total anarchy. Maybe that's where you need to be on your project, because that's what the project is. It's craziness. Maybe you need to be right over here. You get what I'm saying? So if you take a look at the Agile Practice Guide, it is no different. What we're trying to say here is waterfall works best when requirements are well understood and there's little chance of change. Agile works best when there's high variability and the need to experiment to discover the best solution when change is likely. And that's okay. So take a look at page 14 one more time and see if it makes sense for you, right? We're just saying that projects that are chaos, crazy, you're much better off using an agile approach for those. So if you read what the PMI have said here, it says some projects have considerable uncertainty around project requirements and how to fulfill those requirements using current knowledge and technology. That's what they mean by technological or technical degree of uncertainty. And that is figure 2-5 and page 14. All right, so now that I've explained it to you, I want you to read page 13, page 14, and page 15. Now, going into life cycle selection, which you also remarked, that was a little bit complex for you, talking about complexity. I want us to draw out this concept that is in the Agile Practice Guide for you. And this concept is one of hybridization, right? If you take a look at the Agile Practice Guide on page 19, what you're going to see is the image 3-1, and it's called a continuum of life cycles. So before I go to talk about predictive and iterative and incremental, let's take a look at that really quick. So here it is, the continuum of life cycles. Follow me to page 19. We're going to read something really quick. It says, no life cycle can be perfect for all projects. Instead, each project finds a spot on the continuum that provides an optimum balance of characteristics for its context. Okay. So when you boil this down, the PMI have taken the Stacy complexity model and they have distilled it into this rather interesting chart or diagram, which has predictive, incremental, agile, and iterative. And in this map, we can see when it is best to use predictive, incremental, agile, or iterative approaches. So let's get that straight first, okay? Let's examine them one by one. Predictive, this should be easy to understand. It means you can largely predict the outcome of the project, and as a result of great planning, you should be able to get to your goal by using a plan-driven approach. You plan it out. But this is when the frequency of delivery is low. In other words, you're probably delivering one time and the degree of change is low. So take a look at these two parameters. I'm going to box them for you so you know what I'm talking about. When you have a low frequency of delivery, see that? Low. And you have a low degree of change, low, right? Looks like the Stacy complexity model. That is a recipe to use predictive. Get it? When you have a low degree of change, but a high degree, high frequency of delivery, this is when it is better to use incremental. When you have a low degree or low frequency of delivery, but a high degree of change, see that here? That is a good recipe for iterative. Low frequency of delivery and high degree of change. Because what you're working on has some changeability, but it is not going to be delivered in increments. It's going to be delivered once. So you are repeating in cycles until it is correct. Make sense? Last but not least, we have agile, which is great for when we have a high frequency of delivery and a high degree of change. That is when it is best for you to use agile. Now, when we talk about it's best to use agile, we're not saying it has to be one or the other. And this has been talked about quite a lot in the Agile Practice Guide. All we're saying is the likelihood is that on this continuum that you're looking at, right here, see the continuum? The likelihood is that if you have a high frequency of delivery and a high degree of change, then you are better off being on one of these sides. And the side you want to be on is more to the right. See that? And we're not saying you have to be entirely agile. We're just saying more agile would make sense. Add more agile. And maybe you realize we need to be 90%, or we need to be 100%, or we need to be 95, or we need to be 60. It depends. On the flip side, when you take a look at a project that is largely predictive on the continuum, you could be somewhere towards the middle, or you could be here or here. And that's okay. All one is saying is know where you should be on the continuum. Analyze your project, assess it, and understand. This is one of the things that's talked about in the tasks in the content outline. You got to assess. Should I be more predictive or less predictive? Okay? So that's the continuum of life cycles. And I want you to think about that for a few moments, because next we are going to page 18, one of my favorites in the Agile Practice Guide. And I think it's a great page for any project manager from the old world. When I say old world, I mean the world before Agile was, the world before the PMBOK guide encapsulated it. Get what I'm saying? So on page 18 of the Agile Practice Guide, you have this pretty interesting table. It's table 3-1. And this is what table 3-1 looks like. On table 3-1, you can see all of the methods we just looked at represented. We have a predictive approach to project management, which is plan-driven. The requirements, of course, are fixed. Can they change? Yes, they can. But it has to go through very heavy change control. The activities are performed once for the entire project. The delivery is a single delivery at the end, and our goal, you know, is to manage costs. That's why we have heavy change control. Contrast that with Agile, which is a change-driven approach or adaptive approach to delivery. The requirements are not fixed. We can change the requirements without a lot of red tape, as long as the product owner or whoever is responsible sees this as adding value to the endeavor. We can swap things out of any of the backlogs. We can remove things altogether. So it really depends. In the world of Agile, we keep on hammering away at things until they get done well. We repeat until correct. We understand that there's going to be technical debt. We understand that we're going to have spikes where we need to go off and study and do some experiments to come back and do it properly. So we repeat until correct, and we have frequent small deliveries at the end of each sprint. And our main goal is value. In fact, we call the product owner the chief value officer because their chief aim is to get that value crystallized in the sprint and to get it delivered to the customer, to the business unit, to the end user. So when we talk about the team in the world of Agile, especially in Scrum, you got to remember we have developers, the Scrum Master, and the product owner, and those make up the team. But our main goal as the team is to get that value into their hands as often as possible. Remember the concept of the MVP? So I hope this is making sense so far. Let's go to the last two. Iterative. Iterative is very similar in delivery to predictive. It's a single delivery. Now, iterative means we are doing it until it's correct, again and again in cycles, repeating it until it's correct. And we are quite obsessed with the correctness of the solution. It has to be right. But when it comes to the requirements, this is where it is different from predictive. In the world of iterative, our requirements can change. They are dynamic. And when the requirements change, the deliverable that you initially thought was going to be a particular way, it could change. That's all right. It's iterative. Remember, our goal is the correctness. We want that solution to be what is fit for use and conforming to the requirements we're given. And those requirements are dynamic. Last but not least, we've got incremental. Incremental just means frequent, smaller deliveries. In this one, we are really concerned with speed. Let's get it into the hands of the customer quick. The requirements are again dynamic, and it is performed once for a given increment. And that, my friends, hopefully clears up the questions you had from the study group. As you run the study group, just remember you've got more than enough quizzes, more than enough information, more than enough stuff from the Praizion repository. I wouldn't recommend watching the plethora of video that you folks have access to, but what I would recommend is ahead of time, send out those topics so that people can come prepared. All right. I wish you all the very best on your WhatsApp group, and let me know if you need any help. Bye for now. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another adventure in PMP exam studying. We're taking a look at the Agile quiz for PMP exam students here. And you know how this goes. I'll give you a few seconds to take a look at the question and select an answer. So let's get started. I'll give you a few seconds more. Take your time. If you need more time, hit the pause button. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's take a look at what the answer could be. Using the process of elimination, there are certain things you don't know. You don't know that the product owner needed your assistance. That's not indicated in the question. You don't know if you encountered traffic and there is conflict and you need to give the team space. How does that help? Anything. So those are all bogus. The best answer is C. You just need to ensure the daily scrum was held. That's your job as the scrum master. Remember that in this world of scrum, we could have a scrum master that has trained and coached a team to effectively facilitate and therefore can work with other teams. Let's go to our next question. You're working on a scrum team, the product is very laborious, and you may need multiple teams. What is the maximum number of team members on a scrum team? I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about this one. So think about it and go for an answer. Let's hit that end button, choose your option, and 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the answer to this one, using the process of elimination for what is bogus, 12 would be too big a number. Remember, we're talking about working on a scrum team. In the Scrum guide, we have less than 10. So all these are incorrect. The best answer is less than 10. In your Agile practice guide, bear in mind that it does read between 3 and 9 members on an Agile team. And this is the best option from what has been given in the question. Let's go to our next one. Read the question and take as much time as you need. All right, my friends, let's end it here. The answer to this question, if you take a look, you can see team charter, social contract, team agreement, they are all the same thing. If you take a look at pages 49 and 50 in the Agile Practice Guide, you'll see that team charter, social contract, team agreement are used interchangeably. And therefore, the answer to this is all of the options above. That is where you can find the definition of done. You can find the definition of done in the team charter. Reference could also be made to the definition of done in the Agile project charter as well. Just bear that in mind. All right, let's move into our next question. Your customer is in the process of ensuring the deliverable is fit for use. What does this describe? I'll give you a few seconds. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Well, taking a look at this, it doesn't tell you if it is hybrid or predictive or agile. So you just got to go with what makes the most sense based on either, right? So taking a look at the options, it cannot be sprint planning. That's not where we ensure a deliverable is fit for use in Scrum. There's no such thing as sprint elicitation. And I should get rid of that tick there. So it's not that, it's not that, and it's not control scope, because control scope is not where you would ask your customer to check a deliverable. The answer is validate scope. And I hope that green check mark didn't give it away, but that is the answer. All right, let's go to our next one. Next one says, you work for a research company that has just gone through an agile transformation. You are now working on a project with a low degree of change and a high frequency of delivery. What is the best way of managing the associated risks? Again, if you need more time, hit the pause button. I'll give you a few seconds to decide. All right, 3, 2, and 1. So you got to use the process of elimination. So since it has said low degree of change, you need to know that is closer to the left-hand side of that grid. Remember, you got a grid with delivery, frequency of delivery, and an axis with degree of change. All right, so you got the frequency of delivery on the y-axis, and you've got the degree of change on the x-axis. And if you are at the bottom left, I'll just use this. This would be predictive. The bottom left, top left would be incremental. Top right would be agile. And bottom right would be iterative. So think about it like this: predictive, incremental, agile, and iterative, right? So since this question says a low degree of change and a high frequency of delivery, you can guess it's going to be this one. See? So the best answer to this is option D. The best option is D because that is the incremental choice. Carry out the work using an incremental approach. You can find more of the information for this on pages 14, 18, and 19 in the Agile Practice Guide. Next question. All right, if you need more time, be sure to hit the pause button. The team is behind schedule in the sprint you just started. Whose responsibility is it to keep the team on track? In the world of Agile, we rely on decentralized leadership. So the answer is not a central figure, not the product owner, not the Scrum Master, not senior management. The answer is team, C. Let's go to our next question. Your team has accomplished 250 story points in this sprint. At the beginning of the sprint, management was told to expect 300 story points. Which of the following is true? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about this one, a bit tricky. All right, I've given you quite a bit of time to think about that one. Let's go ahead and end this one. 3, 2, and 1. All right, so ask yourself, what is earned value? Earned value is also known as the budgeted cost of work performed, right? So in this case, if your team has accomplished 250 story points, that is not the earned value. That is what was planned. That's the planned value. So E is wrong. Earned value is not 300. We can also deduce that C would be bogus because there's no cost information here. Okay. Now, ETC is the estimate to complete. You could say there's an estimate to complete the remaining 50 story points, but it wouldn't equate to $50 because there's no currency or cost information given in the question. So we don't know that. What we do know is that we are behind schedule because you've got 250 done and you promised 30. So in this regard, we know that B is likely to be the right option. Now, if you calculate SPI equals earned value divided by planned value, earned value is what you accomplished, 250. What you promised was 300, and that is going to give you the 83.83, 0.8333, and so on. And that's why the answer to this is B. All right, so just convert the story points that you got done to earned value and the story points you promised to planned value, and you'll end up getting the answer on your test. All right. And that's how you do it. All right, let's move to our next one. You have just joined a new company that is using a mixed approach of Scrum and Kanban. Majority of the method is based on Scrum using a Kanban board and WIP limiting principles. Where would you expect to find the definition of ready? I'll let you think about it for a little bit. All right, that should be enough. And you probably realize some of these questions are incredibly short, pretty straightforward, right? So on the exam, you can expect to find questions that are this short. Using the process of elimination, we can cancel things that are not sensible, like the definition of ready won't be in the roadmap. This is something the team uses, right, to define when their user stories are ready to be worked on. In other words, they meet the INVEST acronym. Remember what INVEST stands for? Independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small enough to fit within a sprint, and testable. Just search the INVEST acronym, right? It wouldn't be in the client contract, neither would it be in the project charter at the very beginning of the project. This is after the team has had some deliberation. So the best answer, my friends, is C. It's team contract. All right, let's move to our next question. You are the facilitator on an Agile project. Whose responsibility is it to develop and manage the schedule? I'll give you a few seconds. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Very similar to what we discussed previously. This is not a centralized affair in the world of Agile. It's decentralized. So it wouldn't be any of the central figures, such as the product owner or the facilitator. And it wouldn't be management. It would be the developers themselves, the development team. So the best answer to this is C. Remember, develop and manage the schedule. It's the team, the development team. All right, let's move to our next one. The team is independent and functioning very well on their own on your project. There's no conflict and team members keep to themselves most times. Which stage are they likely in? All right, hit the pause button if you need more time. I'll give you a little bit. All right, let's end it. It's a very short question. So it says the team is independent. That word in and of itself is a red flag. The reason is if the team is independent, everyone doing their own thing, working on their own, conflict hasn't started, very likely. So it says independent and functioning very well on their own. On your project, there is no conflict. That's suspicious right there. And team members keep to themselves. They're not working together. So they haven't hit conflict yet. They are in the forming stage. The best answer to this is forming. It's not storming, obviously. It's not performing because they're independent, and it's not norming. So the best answer is forming. You got to look for those keywords that define each one of these stages. All right, let's take a look at the final question. Again, a pretty straightforward one if you understood this one. The team is interdependent and functioning very well. There is constructive conflict and team members are mentally co-located. Which stage are they likely in? All right, give it a few seconds. All right, if you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, the answer to this is not storming, obviously, because it says they are mentally co-located. It means they're on the same wavelength, the same bandwidth, right? They're working together, right? It says there's constructive conflict. So it's not destructive. Storming doesn't necessarily produce constructive conflict. It also says interdependent. So it's not forming because they are independent in forming, not interdependent. In norming, they're not yet interdependent. So the best answer, my friends, to this one is they are in the performing stage. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. Remember, if you're getting ready for your PMP exam and you need a boost, you need to go on down to the website, hpmexam.com, hpmexam.com. And every Sunday, there is a half-day boot camp because that's a day when most people are not in motion or at work or doing something crazy, right? That takes them away from studying. hpmexam.com for a 4-hour boot camp. Highly recommend you go there. We cover all of the content needed for the PMP, and we get you in ship shape. We get you to find the gaps, to recognize things you do not know. I hope you found this to be useful, my friends. All the very best, and talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Agile Guessing Game. This is a game to help you with your PMP exam prep, and this is where we focus on Agile questions. Let's go to our first section. Are you an Agile aficionado? Let's take a look at the first question. It's a simple one. You are in the middle of a decision-making session to decide upon the best quality approaches for your project. Which of the following would you use? Select all that apply. Five seconds left. All right, time up. The correct answer is all of the choices with the exception of story points. Remember, decision making. Fist of five, thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways, dot voting. But story points is used for estimating. Let's go to our next section, and this is, which Agile term is it? In this section, I ask you which Agile term it is based on what I describe. The daily meeting is structured around some variant of certain questions. What are these typically referred to as? And what are they? The daily meeting is structured around some variant of 3 questions. Just tell me what those questions are in any way you can. I'll give you 30 seconds to do that. Five seconds. All right, the 3 questions, as they are often referred to, follow a structure such as, what have you completed since our last stand-up meeting to move us towards the sprint goal? What will you do before our next stand-up meeting to move us closer to the sprint goal? And which impediments are getting in your way? The Agile Alliance defines these as, what have you completed? What will you do next? What is getting in your way? The Scrum Guide by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland puts it in a very direct way. And I quite like the approach because it focuses you on what exactly you're trying to accomplish, which is the current sprint goal. And of course, you know, there's a goal for every sprint. So the question should be aligned towards the sprint goal, not just any random work or any old work, but the work you have done that has moved the team towards the sprint goal. So you need to check out the Scrum Guide by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. Just go to scrumguides.org and you'll be able to download that document for free. A lot of my students highly recommend it if you're taking the PMP exam. So do look into that. All right. So the 3 questions, variant of the 3 questions could be asked. What have you completed? What will you do next? What is getting in your way? All right, let's go to our next section. The next section here is, are you an Agile aficionado? And this question seems to be of the longer variety. Let's take a look. You are working on an Agile software implementation project after the product vision has been cast and sprint planning. As the team starts creating product increment during the first sprint, they discover the initial estimates for the stories were significantly off. Some estimates exaggerated the amount of work and time needed. Some understated the amount of work and time that would be needed. At the next retrospective, what will be the best advice for resolving this problem in the future? I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. Fifteen seconds left. All right, your time is up. Let's take a look at the options. So obviously the estimates are off, some are exaggerated and some are cut short of what they should be. So what should we do in an agile environment? A, use planning poker to obtain the estimates and spend more time in sprint zero estimating. Well, first of all, sprint planning and what you do in sprint zero are two different things. So this option of using specifically planning poker is bogus. This is not the best option that I would go for, but let's take a look at whatever else is on the table. Option B, this is not a problem that needs to be fixed. This uncertainty is expected. Okay, well, let's hold on to that one. We'll double back down and take a look at A and B again. C, ensure estimates are obtained from developers and specialists who are very experienced in doing this type of work. Now, there's something wrong with this in that if you are working on an agile project for the right reasons, it's very likely that the work you're doing is exploratory. It might be new work. So it wouldn't be a concern to get very experienced people necessarily. You could have people who are new to a project and still be faced with estimating. So I'm not going to go with this one. Option D, use bottom-up estimating whenever possible. Well, you already know that's definitely not an agile project, right? This will provide the best and most accurate estimates. We know that bottom-up estimating is great, but we do not use that in the world of agile specifically. You could have a blend, but that is not the best option. So we're faced with two. Saying that you should use planning poker specifically, of course, you know, is bogus. And it leaves us with B. This is not a problem that needs to be fixed. This uncertainty is expected. And moreover, it tells you it is during the first sprint. You do know that in the world of Agile, we do things in an iterative fashion. Some of our estimates could be off in the beginning, but as time goes on and we are collecting the empirical data, you are going to get more precise using the actual velocity that you are capable of. So if we take a look at the answer, and I want to say a big thank you to our buddy Mark for this question, which is a very, very well put together question. The answer that Mark has provided is, the correct answer is, this is not a problem that needs to be fixed. With Agile, there is a high level of uncertainty at the beginning of the project, and it is expected that initial estimates will not have a high level of precision or accuracy. So thank you, Mark, for that question. And we are at the end of today's session of the Agile Guessing Game. For those of you getting ready for the exam, if you're weak in Agile, you need to go on down to agileprinciple.com and check out the training that my buddy Roy and I have there for you. Thank you for joining us and see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Welcome, welcome. Today we are in class here with our awesome PMPs to be who are getting ready to slay the exam. And it is the 22nd of February. And we're just going to take a look very quickly at some questions that we I've explored previously, but just trying to put some finality around some of the basic Scrum questions. So I call this Scrum Express. It's a very straightforward set of questions. And it reads, a list of all the requirements the customer wants, even those not worked on, is known as what? So just go ahead, choose an option, and we'll breeze through these pretty quick. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll and let's share the results. Brilliant work. So the answer to this is indeed the product backlog. The product backlog is everything, even those that you have not worked on. It's in the product backlog. All right. Here's the next one. A list of some of the long list requirements, only those to be done in a sprint, is known as what? Alrighty, 3, 2, and 1. End the poll. Awesome job. The answer to this is indeed the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is a list of some of the long list requirements, those to be done in the sprint. Here's your next one. Next question reads, the product backlog is prioritized and owned by... Three, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll. And the answer to this one, my friends, contrary to what a lot of folks think, the product backlog is owned by the product owner. That's why we call the product owner the chief value officer. It is not owned by the Scrum team. The Scrum team does work on the backlog in many ways as coordinated or facilitated by the product owner. But the real owner of it, who owns the backlog, it's the product owner. That's why the word owner, right? Owned by the owner would make sense, right? So the product owner who owns the backlog, the product backlog should also be prioritized by the product owner, of course, with the help of the team, but who owns it and whose job is this? It's the product owner. All right, here's the next one. The first event of a sprint is... What do we do first in sprint? Okay, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go ahead and let's end the poll. All right, and let's share the results. Okay, and the answer to this one, the very first thing you do is you do the sprint planning. So if we go back in a little time machine and we take a look at the sequence of events in a Scrum, what you're going to realize is that the very first thing that happens is the sprint planning. After sprint planning, then you move into having daily scrums, okay? But the best answer to this is sprint planning. It's the very first thing that happens. So just think about it like this. As I always say, you know, try and draw out the Scrum skeleton before your exam. The Scrum skeleton is going to start off with your product backlog, okay? And then your product backlog, you're going to whittle that down into a sprint backlog for the sprint, but that happens within sprint planning. Okay, so where sprint planning happens, that's where your sprint backlog is being derived from your product backlog. And then you go into the actual 24-hour cycles, the sprint. Just remember that the sprint is actually a container for all the ceremonies, really. But the first ceremony is sprint planning. Then you have your daily scrum. Then after the daily scrum, you get your PSI, your potentially shippable increment, whatever that may look like. And then your potentially shippable increment, you're going to have your demo, and then you're going to have your retrospective after that. And just remember the informal ceremony that happens in the middle. We have at some point in the middle our backlog refinement ceremony. And that's really it. That is your 3 artifacts, right? Product backlog, sprint backlog, and the PSI. Your 5 ceremonies, you're going to have the sprint planning, the daily scrum, the sprint itself, the demo, the retrospective, and the informal ceremony, backlog refinement that could happen. And just remember your roles: product owner, scrum master, and the developers, or the development team, if you will, or team. You know, sometimes we refer to them as developers, other times we refer to them as development team, but you just need to read through the context of the question and know what is being spoken about. All right, so the first event of the sprint is sprint planning. Just remember, again, we have a container, and in the container, we have everything else. We have the sprint planning, we have the sprint review, we have the sprint retrospective, and we have the daily scrum, all of them happening within the container of the sprint. Okay, so your container is the sprint. And that will help you be able to navigate some of the questions that you face on the test. All right, let's move on to our next one. Next question. The average length of a sprint used in most firms. Just remember, this is talking about best practices in industry or what you've seen to be most common in industry. Okay, it's not talking about what is the limit, it's talking about what is the most common. Remember, we've talked about this quite a few times. All right, what do you think? All right, 3, 2, and 1. And the poll, brilliantly done. The answer is indeed 2 weeks. That's a sweet spot of most firms. Very good. The end result of the sprint is known as what? Now, I don't expect them to give you acronyms on the exam, but you should be able to distinguish which one is fact from this. Go for it. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Let's go ahead and end the poll and let's share the results. Okay, brilliant job. The answer is indeed PSI. Very good. Okay. Let's go to our next one. A daily scrum is what? Choose the best option. Okay. 3, 2, and 1. Very good. We definitely do not want to choose what it is not. All right. What it is not a status meeting, it's not a phase gate, and it's not a resolution meeting. We should resolve stuff outside of the daily scrum. So it's more of a planning meeting. Brilliant. You folks are doing really, really well. Okay. Here's our next one. And go ahead and launch the poll. Priming the backlog. I'll let you read it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and let's share the results. Seems like we all chose something similar. Okay, so the right answer is, of course, backlog refinement. In the past, they used to call this backlog grooming, but because of the negative sound of that word, it was changed to backlog refinement. Very good. All right, let's see what else. The potentially shippable increment should be shown to the customer in a demonstration, known as what? Let's relaunch. Let's go. Very good. Let's end the poll, share the results. The answer is indeed the sprint review ceremony. Well, back in time, I know we used to get a little bit mixed up with the retrospective, but it seems like we've done a very good correction here. Nice. All right. We got another one. The Scrum team should spend time in self-reflection and checking itself for optimization and improvements. This is known as what? Here's your poll. What do you think? Three, two, and one. End the poll and share. Brilliant job. The answer is indeed retrospectives. This has become a cakewalk for you folks. And I'm really excited about that. Okay. One final question before we jump into something else. Let's go ahead and relaunch the poll. A sprint is what? Brilliant. It is indeed a time box. It's a time box that we fit whatever scope we can into. Well, brilliant job. Very, very nice. I'm very excited we did so well in this. And now it's time for us to move to something else. Thank you very much. For those of you that are not on the program, hey, go on down to projectmanagementmasterclass.com, take a look at the options we have and join us for a journey where we not only cover this, but we also cover a lot of predictive stuff. Okay? See you soon. Welcome to part 2 of the Project Management Masterclass preview. Today, we're going to be looking at questions. We start off with the people piece of the exam. First question, you are working on a project as a team facilitator. You have identified that there is conflict among 4 team members who have formed factions. What is the best course of action for this situation? A, resolve the conflict issue for the team and get management involvement. B, evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate resolution solution. C, avoid getting involved in the conflict. These matters are expected on teams. D, find out which party is wrong by having separate discussions with the team. I'll give you 5 seconds to conclude your answer, and if you need more time, feel free to hit the pause button. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer to this is B. This is the best option based on the PMP exam content outline. All the other options are either reactive or incorrect? A lot of the questions on the exam are as straightforward as knowing what is the right thing to do versus what are the seemingly nice sounding things that are incorrect. Conflict is not about finding out who is right or wrong. It's about bringing both parties to the table as much as possible to collaborate. You could be a facilitator of that collaboration. And that is what B suggests. D is wrong. C, don't avoid getting involved in the conflict. It says you're working as a project team facilitator. This is part of your job. And A, you don't resolve conflict issues for the team and get management involvement under most circumstances. Don't resolve conflict for two parties. Next question. A new team member just joined the project with very little experience. However, she is very confident in herself and her abilities to learn. She's very eager to take on work. Which leadership approach should you use with her? A, delegating. B, coach. C, directing. D, collaborative. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you need more time, hit the pause button. The answer to this question is based on the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model. And in that model, we have 4 quadrants. Bottom right, direct, top right, coach, top left, participative or supportive type of leadership, and the bottom left, delegating. In this case, we have an individual who is already highly motivated, eager to take on work, and confident. Therefore, this individual needs a lot of direction because they have no experience, but they don't need a whole lot of support. For that reason, we would choose the directing style. The answer to this is C. Let's go to our next question. As a servant leader on an agile project, one of your key responsibilities is to A, remove impediments. B, delegate work to team members. C, plan out the schedule and cost. D, plan out the scope, schedule, cost, and quality. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 3, 2, 1. Taking a look at the question setup as a servant leader, one of the key things you do is remove roadblocks. So the correct answer for this is remove impediments. This is the best option based on the Agile Practice Guide and general Agile industry awareness. Next question. On your 5-month government project with 20 powerful stakeholders, you also have a stakeholder with a low level of power and interest on the project. What should you do next with this stakeholder? A, keep informed. B, monitor. C, keep motivated. D, manage close. Hit the pause button if you need more time. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's take a look at the power interest grid, also known as the influence impact grid. You might recall from our studying together, from other videos I have on YouTube, you can think about power on the y-axis and interest on the x-axis. You could break this down into 4 quadrants. Stakeholders with a low level of power and a low level of interest, you need to monitor. Low level of power, low level of interest. Monitor them because they could change as the project evolves. Stakeholders with a high level of power and a low level of interest, you want to keep satisfied. Stakeholders with a high level of power and a high level of interest, you want to manage close. And stakeholders with a high level of interest and a low level of power, you want to keep informed. Therefore, the answer to this, a low level of power and interest, is monitor B. Next question. Understanding what ready means so the team can take in work, what done means so the team can judge completeness consistently, should be in a document known as what? Is it A, the project charter? Is it B, the project scope statement? Is it C, social contract? Is it D, scope management plan? Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this question can be found in the Agile Practice Guide on page 50. The best option is not the project charter. At this stage, the team hasn't even started conversing, and it's the team that defines some of these terms. So it can't be the project charter. Project scope statement is from the traditional world, can't be that. Ready and done are Agile terms. And D, scope management plan, it can't be that. So on your exam, use the process of elimination to cross out what it couldn't be. The only one it could be is social contract, C. Once again, familiarize yourself with the tools that are likely to be available on your exam based on feedback from other students. Also go on down to the Pearson site and make sure you are familiar with the layout of the exam and the interface. It will help you. If you're getting ready for the exam and you are stumped and stuck and you need additional help, I would encourage you to go on down to our website. It's praizion.com. On that website, you can sign up for the Project Management Masterclass. You can sign up for on-demand training that you do self-study. You can sign up for the Agile Practice Guide Immersion training, where we go through the Agile Practice Guide. If you're a PMP, you can look into the Project Leadership Institute. And if you click on that link for self-study and you scroll down, you see different options. But one of the options is live coaching. So if you need a live coach, hit that. And before you know it, you'll be laughing all the way to the score bank. Thank you very much for joining me on this first episode of PMP Questions. That was, again, from the people domain. In our next episode, we'll take a look at the process domain. my friends, it's that time again to jump into another risk management fun test. Good to see you here today. I hope you've taken a look at the previous episodes. Let's jump into the very first one. Here is your first question. It reads, you are working with the product owner and the developers to place certain risk items in the list of things to do. Which of the following best describes this concept? I'll give you more time to answer, but you got to hit the pause button. Okay, hit the pause button, get more time for this question. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. The best answer is B. A risk-adjusted backlog is a backlog that includes work and actions to address threats and opportunities. Okay? That makes sense to you, doesn't it? If you have studied enough about the risk-adjusted backlog. All right, let's move on to our next question. Capacity should be factored at 8 hours for team members. Is that true or false? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this is false. Capacity should be factored at less than 8 hours. So in other words, how much availability do you have? Is it 8 hours? No, you go to meetings, you might attend ceremonies, you might go for a dental appointment. Definitely not. So this is false. More like 6 hours and less. Some people might only have 4-hour capacity on some days. All right, let's go to our next question. You are in the process of identifying risks. You are using a technique to determine the basic underlying cause of a variance, defect, or risk. A root cause may underlie more than one variance, defect, or risk. Which method does this best describe? I'll give you some time for this one. All right, I gave you a fair amount of time for that one, my friends. All right, 3, 2, and 1. So this one, it might have caused you to scratch your head a little bit. But when you get questions like this, you need to ask yourself, which of these haven't I seen? You probably guessed it was along the line of cause and effect, but did Ishikawa analysis confuse you? When you get questions like this, you got to go with what you're more familiar with. So it's A. That's the answer. Is it unfair to have D in there? You could look at it like that, but on the exam, you're going to have 2. Which one is more correct? Have you ever heard Ishikawa analysis? No. So this is a cutout of chapter 7. This analytical technique is used to determine the basic underlying cause of a variance, defect, or risk. A root cause may underlie more than one variance. A classic cutout of cause and effect diagram or Ishikawa diagram. Okay. Cause and effect diagram, not Ishikawa analysis. That one was harsh. All right, next one. Let's take a look. Daily scrums improve communications, identify impediments, promote quick decision-making, and consequently eliminate the need for other meetings. Is that true or false? You need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. All right, that is a true statement. Very, very true indeed. This is from the world of Scrum. Daily scrums do all of those things. It's a classic cutout from the Scrum guide. Let's take a look at another one here. Developers and the product owner must channel all communication through the Scrum Master. True or false? Give you some time to think about it. All right, 3, 2, and 1. The answer to this is, of course, false. We don't have central leadership in the world of Scrum, neither do we have centralized communications. So that's false. Let's take a look at our next question. Okay. Descriptive terms such as very high, high, medium, low, and very low, or numeric values can be used for probability and impact when creating a probability impact matrix. Which term best describes this numeric value? I'm going to give you some time to think about this one. All right, let's end it. Let's end it right there. That's enough time, my friend. So what did you come up with? Let's take a look at the options. Risk score, risk quantity, risk number, EMV. Well, I hope you use process of elimination to get rid of B and C that are bogus. D is not that. D is not very high, high, medium, low, and stuff like this. The best answer is A. Risks are scored in the perform qualitative risk analysis process, and all that information is there for you to read. But the bottom line, the term that best describes very high, high, medium, low, low, stuff like that is risk score. So the answer to that is A. Here's a true or false question. Kanban can be used for everyday personal work tasks. Is that true or false? All right, 3, 2, and 1. That is true. Kanban is used by a lot of people for their personal work tasks. I'm a huge advocate of Kanban. Truly believe it's the answer to a lot of people's disorganization. Let's take a look at the next one. Your project has a 70% probability of 10 million profit, the 30% chance of 5 million loss. What is the EMV for the project? I know some of you are going to need the timer for this one, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about it. Think about it. All right, let's end it in 3, 2, and 1, my friends. All right, that's that about that. Let's take a look at what the options are. So what you would have done is find the P times I, probability times impact, for both risks. Add them up, right? The profit and the loss. You got a profit risk, you got a loss risk. Add them up after you find the EMV. That's what you should have done. So 0.7 times 10 million plus 0.3 times minus 5 million. I hope you didn't add the loss without putting a negative in front of it, because you wouldn't have gotten it right. All right, so the answer to this is 5.5 million. All right, since we're talking about risk so much, it would be helpful if we focused a little bit on one of the components from our hybrid project management class. It's called hpmexam.com. And in this class, we focus on all of the tasks. We try to get you in ship shape so that whatever's blocking you, you understand. And one of the things we talk about is this task 2.3, assess and manage risk, from the process piece. So when we assess and manage risk, that is really just saying we're determining our risk management options, and then we are iteratively assessing and prioritizing the risks, but we are also taking action on those risks. Something that we don't think of a lot of times in the world of Agile is how risks should be managed from an Agile world. So what I would like us to do right now is hear from our buddy Roy. He's going to talk to us about risk from a more Agile perspective, because believe it or not, this exists in Agile, and we should be using things such as risk registers and other Agile, incorporating those into other Agile events. So let's take a look, listen to what our buddy Roy has to say to us here.
Yeah, a lot of these things, these risk mitigation techniques, are built into the framework. You think about things like short sprints. Well, that gives you the opportunity for feedback and course correction. The sprint review gives you the feedback to make sure we're doing the right stuff. It's constant validation of the product that you're building and services. Doing daily scrums, that's a constant synchronization point to make sure that we can work together as a team. There's tons and tons of things that are built into the process to help us mitigate risk. Even the ability to change scope is a risk mitigation technique. The risk of delivering the wrong product or something that your customers don't actually want or use. So all of these are built-in risk mitigation techniques. However, there's also more that we want to do. And so we follow a lot of the same techniques that you would do in traditional approaches. So it's the same basic concept, but fortunately, there's a lot of passive risk mitigation built into the framework. Right? Back to you, Phil.
All right, great stuff from our buddy Roy there. So let's jump straight back into our questions. Got just a couple questions left. This one says, leading, training, and coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption is a job of the Scrum Master. What do you think about that? We're talking about the entire organization here. What do you think? True or false? All right. If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, and 1. This is, of course, true, right? It's a job of the Scrum Master. Scrum Master should always be on the lookout to see when there's a training, coaching, mentoring opportunity. All right, and that's what leaders do. Remember, Scrum Master, code name for servant leader, facilitator, whatever you want to call it. Also take a look at page 41 in the Agile Practice Guide, right? For those of you that haven't focused on the Agile Practice Guide, I want to recommend it. Page 41. Okay, that will help you hunker down and understand some of these roles a little bit better and know what to expect on the exam by virtue of how these roles are named and so on. All right, let's go to another one. This one says, on a Scrum project, the developers who will be doing the work are responsible for the sizing. Is that true or false? What do you think? If you need more time, hit the pause button. 3, 2, 1. This is true. People doing the work, they are responsible for sizing the work. It's absolutely true. All right, we have just one final question for you. Let's take a look at our final question here. This will close us out for today. Before we do that, though, we got another important thing to talk about. So we talked about risks. We talked about how to handle those from an agile standpoint. Well, we also need to talk about something else that is pretty important. It's the concept of impediments. All right. So talk about risk, you'll balance it up, talk about impediments, because we also have to address this in an agile world. Okay. So we often hear the term impediments more. Let's listen to our buddy Roy and hear what he has to say.
For me, regardless of the process that you're following, this should be an absolutely critical thing that you can do as project managers and the team should be doing in order to improve performance. What I find with more traditional approaches, we may identify the impediments, we may identify those things that are slowing us down, but it's kind of viewed that it's okay if something is slowing us down because we can go start something else. So while that's being resolved, it's perfectly fine to start new work. Well, in Agile, we strongly discourage that. And instead, we say, if you have a blocker, go get that blocker removed. That blocker has stopped you from working on something that was identified as high priority. So if you are stopping this particular work, moving on to something else, you have intentionally selected something of lower value, lower priority, and you have agreed, you started working on it. And that is not a good idea for us to do that. Now, of course, there are times when you do have to do that because it takes some time to remove that blocker, but don't make that your default. And the team will likely make that default simply because it's easier, right? It's easy to go start something new. It's a lot harder to go get something escalated, right? So go get those things resolved. Go fix these things. Get them out of the way of the team so they're not starting and stopping and starting and stopping all the time. It destroys their flow of work and slows them down incredibly, right? So along those lines, make sure that you build a culture of impediment removal. Every time you stop and start something, switch to something else, you are reducing your cycles, you're reducing your efficiencies, and we want to get rid of that. So with that culture, the whole organization is focused on helping the team get faster, and that team is then going to be hyper productive, not just productive, not high performing, but hyper performing, and that's where we want to get to. Now that kind of leads us gently into risks as well, because risks have an opportunity of becoming impediments. So a truly, truly productive team is not just focusing on removing the blockers that they've uncovered, they're also focusing on the risks, which will eventually become blockers. That's a truly productive team. That's where we want to get to.
Maximum productivity, that's where it's at. All right, let's take a look at this final question, my friends. Very straightforward, based on what our buddy has told us. You are in the process of identifying risks. You're using a technique to identify threats by starting with a problem statement. For example, the project might be delayed or over budget, and exploring which threats might result in that problem occurring. Which technique does this best describe? This is one that I know you're going to need some time for sure. So I'm going to let you take some time in answering this final question. Let's go for it. Final question. All right, my friends, that closes out our question segment. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. You probably guessed there was some trickery involved based on the options being very similar to what you had seen prior. And that's because the answer is not either of those tricky options. The answer is C this time. Again, going back to page 415 in your PMBOK guide, this is the best option. Root cause analysis is used to uncover the underlying causes that lead to a problem, but look at what it says. It starts with a problem statement. Ishikawa does not start with a problem statement, right? Cause and effect diagram, same as Ishikawa, same as YY, same as cause and effect, right? Cause and effect, Ishikawa, YY, all the same thing. But the bottom line is they are different. And if you read the explanations in the PMBOK guide, you really see the differences between them. That's why the answer is C. Okay. I hope you found this to be useful. If you are looking for a solution, remember to get you into shape really on an emergency as maybe your final 1 month of studying, you need to go on down to the PMP exam immersion page. It's hpmexam.com, right? At hpmexam.com, every Sunday, we come to you with a half-day boot camp to kick the tires, boot you into shape, and you get 30 days. So if your exam is in the next 30 days, you need to be in the hpmexam.com PMP immersion course. It's a 4-hour no-nonsense course, boots you into shape, gives you a solid book for your PMP exam. You get this in PDF. So there's really no need for you to lug it around, just PDF. And then the cool thing about this PDF, once you've got it, you just go to Edge, the Microsoft Edge, and this is what you can do with it. I'm going to show you how I use this to read the entire 35 tasks for the PMP exam back to me. This is one of the advantages of having a publication like this. Not only does it have great quizzes and sections, you could actually just get Edge to read it back to you like this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Just click on this right here. Edge is going to read this to me in any
language. As a conflict response. This was well summarized in the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument shown below. Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument.
See that?
The importance of team dynamics in the people domain. One of the main tasks of the project manager is to keep track of the team dynamics and inspire collaboration and solve problems.
Understanding Tuckman's stages of team development could help the project manager understand team dynamics. Purchased by customer underscore name, customer underscore email, hashtag trans.
And you get the idea. You can get this to read any section of the content to you. So if you wanted to read this book on audio, just get into the immersion. The book comes with the course. You get what I'm saying? Come into the immersion course, you get the book. And then you can just get the book read.
Includes a final mock exam.
See that?
IAMHM Hybrid stud MY of people.
Okay.
Pros
you get the idea. Now it's going to read the whole thing. No, stop. So you get the idea. You're going to get the book, like I said. PMP Exam Immersion. It's a solid book. We've got every task in the outline explained from an agnostic point of view, and then go in a little bit more into the agile, hybrid, and some predictive, but it's a very healthy dose. When you come aboard the program, you will get that. That's why I recommend it. Okay, so I appreciate you joining me on this very quick run. This is a second session in a series of 4, and it's about agile and risk for your PMP exam. Okay, hope you found this to be helpful. See you around, and all the best on the exam.